All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are putting two of the Middle East's most powerful militaries under the microscope, Egypt and Israel. We're going to look at everything, the raw numbers, the high-tech gear, and the core strategies that really define this incredibly fascinating and, honestly, critical balance of power.
And this whole comparison really boils down to one of the biggest questions in modern warfare. What actually matters more? Is it having sheer numbers, just an enormous army, or is it having the most advanced, cutting-edge technology? This classic debate, quantity versus quality, is perfectly captured when you put Egypt and Israel side by side.
Okay, so before we jump into the tanks, the jets, all the military hardware, we've got to lay the groundwork first. You have to understand the foundational differences between these two countries. We're talking people, money, and land, because, that stuff sets the stage for absolutely everything else.
Let's start with Egypt. And right off the bat, the scale is just immense. We are talking about a population of around 114 million people. Just let that sink in. That is a massive pool of human resources, and it gives Egypt incredible demographic weight in the entire region.
And then you look at Israel, and the numbers are just, they're wildly different. A population of just under 10 million. That is less than a tenth of Egypt's. This huge difference in scale is probably the most important thing to get your head around from the very beginning.
But hold on, because this is where the story completely flips on its head. Even with that much smaller population, Israel's defense budget is more than double Egypt's. We're talking over $24 billion. Right there, that massive investment is our first huge clue that we're looking at a classic quality versus quantity situation.
And this contrast just keeps going when you look at geography and manpower. Egypt has this vast territory. We're talking over 1 million square kilometers. That gives it what military planners call strategic depth. Plus, it has a massive standing army of 440,000 active personnel. Israel, on the other hand, is super compact geographically, so it relies on a smaller active force that can be quickly beefed up by a huge number of reserves.
All right, so we've got the foundations down. Now for the really interesting part. Let's see how all those differences actually play out on the conventional battlefield. The hardware on the ground, in the air, and at sea.
So when we look at the ground forces, the numbers are just, they're staggering. Egypt fields a massive force of over 5,300 main battle tanks that completely dwarfs Israel's fleet of about 1,370. Now, if you're just looking at the numbers on paper, that looks like an absolute, overwhelming advantage, right?
Well, not so fast. We have to look closer, because the details matter a lot. Egypt's tank force is mostly made up of very good but imported American models, like the Abrams and the Patton. Israel, though. Israel fields its own tank, the Merkava series. And this isn't just any tank. It was designed and built from the ground up, at home, for its own very specific combat needs. We're talking some of the most advanced defensive systems you can find anywhere on the planet. Okay, let's take to the skies. And once again, Egypt has the lead in sheer numbers, with over 1,000 total aircraft compared to Israel's 612. But you guessed it, when you drill down into what really counts, the most critical assets, the story starts to look very, very different.
So if we focus just on the fighter jets, the tip of the spear, the numbers are suddenly almost identical. Both sides fly modern F-16s, which are workhorses. Egypt also has excellent French Rafales and Russian MiGs. Israel, for its part, operates the legendary F-15. But Israel has an ace up its sleeve, a real trump card.
And that ace is the F-35 Lightning II. This thing is not just another jet. It's a fifth-generation stealth fighter, a genuine generational leap in technology. Its ability to fly pretty much undetected, that gives Israel a truly decisive edge. It's really the cornerstone of their entire doctrine of air superiority.
Okay, so what about at sea? Well, here, the advantage swings right back to Egypt. They've got 140 naval assets in total, including 13 modern frigates, making their navy a really formidable force. But the really critical piece here is that they have 2 Mistral-class helicopter carriers. Now, what does that mean? It means Egypt can put troops, helicopters, and gear on a ship and send them far from home. That's called power projection, and it's a capability nobody else in the region really has.
And that advantage extends even below the waves. Egypt has more submarines, plain and simple. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Israel's 5 Dolphin-class submarines are some of the most advanced diesel-electric subs anywhere. They have a special tech called Air Independent Propulsion, or AIP.
All you need to know is that it lets them stay underwater, hidden for way, way longer. So up to now, we've been talking about conventional forces, tanks, planes, ships. But modern warfare is about so much more than that. It's often defined by these unique assets that can completely change the game. We call these asymmetric advantages. And when you're talking about this region, there's one strategic factor, let's call it the elephant in the room, that stands above pretty much everything else. It's the ultimate insurance policy.
And that factor is Israel's undeclared but widely accepted nuclear arsenal. The estimates put it at around 90 warheads. Now, Egypt has no nuclear weapons, so this capability for Israel acts as the ultimate deterrent, basically guaranteeing its survival against any kind of threat that questions its very existence.
Switching to defense, both countries have some seriously advanced systems. Egypt has the powerful Russian S-300 and the American Patriot systems, but Israel is really famous for its incredible integrated multi-layered shield. You've probably heard of the Iron Dome, which handles short-range rockets, but above that there's David's Sling for bigger threats and the Arrow system for ballistic missiles. It's like having multiple layers of defense, one inside the other. You know, all of these technological advantages we've been talking about for Israel, the F-35, the Merkava tank, that missile shield, they aren't just a random collection of cool tech. They're all part of a very specific official strategy. It's called the Qualitative Military Edge, or QME. And what it means, really, is a commitment to making sure its military technology always stays one step ahead of any potential adversary in the region.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Let's pull everything together for a final analysis and really look at the core strengths of these two totally different military approaches.
When you boil it all down, it really comes to this. On one side, you have Egypt. Its strength is in its massive scale, incredible manpower, all that geographic room to maneuver, and a really powerful navy. On the other side, you have Israel. Its strength is all about technology. Guaranteed air power thanks to the F-35, that incredible missile shield, and of course, that ultimate nuclear backstop.
So the conclusion is pretty clear, right? It's a classic matchup. The source material really hits the nail on the head, saying that Egypt's power comes from its sheer numbers and physical size, while Israel's power is firmly rooted in its advanced technology and its dominance of the skies.
And all of this leads us to one final, really important question to think about. This whole contest between quantity and quality, it's never standing still. I mean, with new technologies like drones, cyber warfare, and AI becoming more and more central to how wars are fought, how do you think this historic balance of power is going to shift? It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining me.